Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, depending on where you are. Let me officially welcome you at another MyQ webinar. This time, we will be focusing on the driverless printing. Now, as always, my name is Michael Demel, and I'm a pre-sales manager and a trainer, and I will guide you through this webinar. We will first start with the agenda of what you can expect as part of this webinar. So as always, we will start with some MyQ news, the latest thing that appeared as part of the MyQ, and we will be mentioning both products, the MyQ X and the MyQ Roger as well. The next one will then be the main topic, and that's the MyQ driverless printing. So we will be focusing on all the topics in there. And of course, at the end of that will be a QA session. So I definitely would like to encourage you to ask any question you have, and we will try to answer it at the end of today's webinar. And as I've mentioned at the beginning, we will start with some basic news, things that appeared as part of our products recently, and you definitely should know about them. And the first one we will be talking about is the MyQ Roger. Now, what happened in the MyQ Roger? Now, this is a cloud-based application which is under constant development, and a lot of new features are added every single week. But there's one I really would like to highlight as part of today's presentation, and that's the mobile scan with the OCR. Now, imagine a situation that you are a traveling sales guy or someone who works outside of the office. Someone who needs to get the documents into their system as fast as possible with as many details as possible. And that's actually the feature which will do that, and that way it's available for you. Now, what you can do is basically use your mobile application and scan anything you need. It could be a contract, it could be a receipt, it could be some leaflet you have found at a convention, pretty much anything you would like to digitize and have in your system. Once it's done, the system will automatically process it and let it save you into your desired location, as you can see right now from the screen. The thing is, you can also name it the way you like it. So let's say this has been a MyQ white paper you have found at some convention and would like to check later. So we will just now save it into one of the available destinations. I will intentionally here use the OneDrive. Why the OneDrive? Because that's another feature I would like to highlight here, the actual feature which is related to the OCR. So let's say I will put it into my OneDrive. Here, as you can see, there are all different folders I have in my OneDrive. I can browse through them. I can just put it in any of those, or I can create a new one. There's a little icon in the bottom right corner through which you can create your own folder just to have everything perfectly sorted. So imagine that I'm a sales guy and I need to get that file properly put into a folder. So I'll create a new folder called Business Trip US because I'm now in America. Now, once this is created, the file is put into it. But important thing, this file has been processed by an OCR. Why I'm mentioning that? Imagine the situation. I've been visiting many customers. I've scanned multiple files. And of course, I can remember everything. So if I'm now back in the office and I would like to print it out, I just need to find the file. But, unluckily, I don't remember the name I've given to the file. And, that's actually the other feature I wanted to show you, because when you are looking for it here in my OneDrive, before I release it, of course, using the search button here at the top, I can just use a phrase, I remember. And I remember that the document was something mentioning Bessie. So I will just use that string, I remember. And because the file was automatically processed by the OCR, I can easily find it. And as you can see, it's not even have that string as part of its name. The thing is, the system automatically checks also the contents of the file. And if we now use the preview, you can easily see that it's been found based on the actual header of that file, because it's been processed by the OCR, and that way I can easily find it. Now, there are not only this feature, there's much more than that. But of course, we don't have time to mention every single feature of MyQ Rodeo right now because it's not the main topic of this webinar. But I will definitely would like to encourage you to check all the other features and in general, how powerful this application is and how it can help you in your daily life. So you can just go to the App Store or Google Play, download it for free, and start working with it using all these nice features this application can provide. And of course, if you'll be interested in more features like demonstration on the MFD and other stuff, do not hesitate and contact our sales or technical specialist to prepare a demo just for you. Now, the next feature or next thing I would like to highlight as part of today's MyQ news is related to the MyQ X, the second product of the MyQ Solutions company. And here, I would like to focus on the MFD, which now got the new embedded terminal, and that's the Epson. Thanks to this new development, this new application that's been now released, the already powerful Epson machines are even more powerful with MyQ, because now they are full featured with all options you can imagine, including all the easy scans. So you can just now come to your customer and show how MyQ can sort their problems, how they can make their daily business life much easier. And again, like in the previous case, if you would like to see it, do not hesitate and contact us. We can do the demonstration for you. The next news, because we're not focusing on the news with for a long time, but just short stuff, and that one will be related to the MyQ Training Center and our recent update. Now, we have created a new version and updated it, so let me just quickly show you the highlights or the main important and most important features that appeared as part of this update. Now, if you're a partner and you've got access to the partner portal, you already get probably some experience with the training center. Now, there's a new tab which you can find as part of it, and that's the My Learning profile. There are a few more features that's been added to that profile, features which I would like to show you right now. The first part is that you can overview all your trainings. You can see the progress, you can see how many of those you've been through, how many of those are still waiting for your attention. More important part of this update is related to certifications. Now, as you can see, the certifications are shown here, both the acquired ones and the potential ones, those you can, try to pass, basically the eligible ones. The first thing which you should, check when you are there is this, the date for which the certification is valid. As you probably know, the certification is valid only for 1 year, so you can easily check it here in the portal to check if it is still valid or if you need to renew it. At the same time, if there is something you've not yet passed, like here the Certified Technical Specialist badge, which is still eligible for my account, I can just easily click on that, and now the system will give me all the options through which I can pass it. So as you can see, to pass this, I can either select the technical certification test for this version, or if I prefer to do that in any other language, I can simply do it, because as you can see here, you will see all the options listed, all the options of tests which you can go through to pass the actual certification. There's been actually one more thing you can expect as part of this update, and that's the new training that will appear during this and the next week, and that's the new part of the MyQ X Advanced training. Now, the first thing we wanted to share is the MyQ Advanced scanning with all the scanning parameters, basically a follow-up of the previous webinar. So if you're interested in what the scanning parameters and scanning options can do, you can simply jump to the training and check all those settings there. The last part of today's MyQ news is related to our celebration, the celebration of our 30 years in the industry. So please celebrate with us. Now, there's one really important thing I would like to highlight as a part of today's news, and that is related to the credits. Now, if you remember, at the beginning of this year, we have announced a special promotion that for every sold license of MyQ X, you might get a special credit which you can use for any selected Roger project you will deploy in the field. Why I'm highlighting it here is that you still have additional 163 days to use those credits. So do not let those credits wane. Just use them for any project of your selection. And that's also pretty much everything from the news. And let's now focus on the main topic of today's webinar. And as it was stated in the beginning, the main topic of today's webinars is Let's Go Driverless. Simply, we will be talking about every option of the driverless print MyQ Enterprise can offer you. So, how's it with the printing? As everyone knows, the easiest way to print is using the drivers, either through the LPR, IPPS, or raw print directly to your print server. That's the best way because simply you can deploy the drivers and all the settings using your domain policies or other applications, and you do not have to worry about that. The user will just select the printer, send it to the server, and everything works as smooth as possible. On the other hand, this option is not option for everyone. There is a huge amount of users who will not be able to benefit from that. And that could be, for example, students in schools or someone visiting a library. Basically, someone who's not been in the organization, who doesn't have their account within their domain. All these users will not be able to do that because they will have to install some driver, they will have to get into the system. So for those students, for those users, we have the driverless print. But it's not only them. It could be any sales guy who is traveling and needs to process their files. They have to work remotely from the airport lounge. They will work on a business trip, and still they will need to be able to get all the features of printing when they are back in the office. It doesn't matter if it's you as a user working in the office, on home office, or in the shared workplace where you will just rent the office of yours for limited time. All these users need to print, but none of these users will be in your database. And to allow them to print as easy as possible, you can use all these options, which are part of the MyQ Enterprise. And as you can see, there's one blank space in my slide. And that is reserved for the IT admin, because not only those that need to print are those that are important. Also, the admin guys' work is important because, their work costs a lot of money. So we don't want to waste it. And here, with all these solutions, their job will be as easy as possible so they can focus on much more important tasks than managing the printing. And now let's look on the options MyQ Enterprise offers you. But before we will go to the actual options, let me just focus on the ways how the users can get into the system. Because like I said, those are most probably guests or users that are not part of your standard database. And that way we need to let them self-register into the system to be able to print securely. So the next part of the presentation, we will focus on the user self-registration options. Starting first with the jobs via email. There's another option that they can register using the UI of MyQ. There's an option of the unknown ID card, something which is really good for hotels. And the last one is by sending a first job to MyQ, which is rather a special option, but don't worry, all of these will be explained on examples. So I will start here first with the email print. Pretty common situation when there's someone visiting your company. Now, they're not part of your network, and you definitely do not want them to work as part of your network. So, computer will not be connected to your infrastructure. They will probably use some guest Wi-Fi which you have in your company. But still, these people sometimes need to print. Ideal example will be a user who prefers to have the boarding pass printed on a paper instead of a mobile application. So how this user will do it? Basically, by sending that file they need to print to an email address. We'll focus on that as we will progress through the presentation, so quickly about this part. The important thing is that when this is done, the user will be auto-created in our database, and the system will automatically provide them with the login credentials. So a PIN is sent back and they can securely release the file they need on the printer. So that way, everything could be secured and the user will not really have to be in our network. Another option will be the self-registration using the web UI of the system. The ideal example for this is a public library that offers a printing services. So most probably in such environment, they will have the server which works in the background, and that will be one shared kiosk piece key. A lot of users working on that, and they also, of course, would like to print. So when the user is there, they can just go to the web page, which could be, as a default page, or it could be mentioned as part of some leaflet, and they will just simply hit the register to create their own account, simply by providing the name and the email address. Now, when they would like to print, they can just do it the standard way, because we can install the drivers there, and that could be an MDC application, an application which we have mentioned in one of the previous webinars, an application which allows us to detect who's actually printing, for example, through the selection from the list or by providing a PIN or a password. That way, we can identify who the user is. But more important, we can give the user information about the price of these printouts, because of course, a public library will not like to offer these services for free. So as the user knows what's the price for the printout, they can just release the job or actually send it to the server before it's released. They will come to the librarian, pay the price of the printout, and they can simply come to the machine and release the print job. So that way, we can use this option of user registration through the web UI. Another option is the unknown ID card. A rather special one, but let me just explain it quickly. It's a solution we've sometimes used in hotels, because when you are in the hotel, you get a card through which you can open your room. But the same card, because it's an ID card with some chip, can be used on a card reader. So that way, if the hotel wants to provide the printing services for an extra fee, they can just use it the very same way. Because when you will check in, you'll get your card through which you're opening the room. At the same time, the very same card can be used for printing, because you can come to the machine which is there in the lobby, swipe it over the reader, and the system will automatically create a guest account. And through that, you can easily print, copy, or scan. And then when you will check out, they will just, add the price of all the printouts and copies into your receipt. You will just pay for that. Last option, and rather special one. It's an option that the user will get registered by sending the first print job. How you can benefit from that? It's pretty easy. Let me just explain that on the real situation. Now, in most of the organizations, when you are getting users into the system, you will just define a connection to your LDAP server and get all the users in the system. But that's one thing which can complicate it, because if we do not want to use any other option than a PIN authentication, that PIN would have to be delivered to the user. And if we are talking about 5,000 users, we are talking about 5,000 different emails and pins being sent to users. Now, you might ask, where is the problem? Now, the problem might be that, not every organization will just deploy that system for every single user at once. So it may happen that the users will just get their PIN to their email, but they will just, delete it or forget about it. And when there's a situation when they really would need to work with the system, they no longer remember the PIN and they cannot even find it. And this option is actually a solution for that situation. because the pin will be sent only to the user who actually has the driver installed and is printing for the first time. That way, if we would like to, slowly deploy it in the organization, we can be sure that only those users that really should be using the system will get their pins. Because what will happen? Let's imagine I'm the user. I will send my first print job. And only upon that, based on my username, the account is created. In the background, the synchronization will be set, but instead of a full sync, it will be the update only. So that way, only one user is synchronized. And that way, only one pin is sent. So you will get your pin after the first printout. And that is it. Those are the options how the users can get into the system. And of course, you can use the standard synchronization as well. But like I said, for the guests, those are the right options to use. Now let's focus on the main ways how we can actually print without the drivers. Starting first with the web upload, which is the easiest one. Now imagine a situation. Again, we will start with some example, and that will be the shared workplace, basically an office which you can rent for a limited period of time. So you will come there, rent the office, come with your notebook. But how would you print? Now, logically, you have to first somehow register into the system, so that'll be your account with your email, and you will be assigned a PIN. And then through some web page they will give you as well, which in reality will not be some web page, but it will be the actual UI of MyQ. You can just log in using that email and your PIN. And the easiest way to print that is just by uploading the file. So you can just go here, click on browse, and upload any of the files you can see there. You can also work with the MS Office files. So if I need to print my contract to go through it, because I don't want to see it only in electronic form, but I would like to have the document printed, I can simply do it. And then I can just modify if it should be in color, duplex, and if the machine is equipped with the finisher, also the punch-in and other things can be added as well. Now there's one more thing which can be included as part of that, because there could be two different ways of a contract. Like I'm the common user which comes there only regularly, just I would like to rent the office for one day, do my stuff and leave. But there could be also a situation that will rent the office for longer time than that. And in such a case, that could be handy that they will have a project accounting as well. So they can ask the provider to upload their projects into the system, and that way also this one can be included, and I can just assign the cost to the right cost centers when I'm releasing those. And then the rest is easy. The file comes to the server, gets processed and put into my job queue, and I can easily come to the machine, release it securely, and it's done. And when I'm leaving the office, I will just pay for the office rent and for the printing services. But that's not the whole story. Now, like I said, this is about renting offices, and we're working in the European Union, so there's a GDPR in effect. And based on that, you should be able to ask to get all your records erased from their system. And of course, MyQ is prepared for that through the anonymization of the account, so you can just request it. Your account gets deleted, while the actual organization still gets the full reports about what's been printed on their device, just they don't know exact name of the user who has done that, and the offices are ready to be let to be rented by other people. Another option here is the email printing. Now, the email printing is an option through which you can just, like you've seen in the self-registration part, you can print the file using a dedicated email address. So here, what will be done, what you will need to do to make this option happen. You will need a special email address or email box, which will be connected to your server. The server will automatically check it, and every email that gets into that box will be processed as a print job. So when I'm there, Like I said, the situation could be that I'm either in a hotel and I need to print something, or I'm just visiting the company and need to print something either for my presentation, or it could be the before mentioned, boarding pass. It could be pretty much anything. So what I need to ask is the email to which I should send the file. Then I will just use that as a receiver of that email. I can, of course, browse my computer and put there any file I want to be printed. So like here, for example, my reservation details will be attached. And once it's done, it's sent to the specific email address. MyQ will process it, and it will not be only for the PDFs like you see here, but it can be also for the MS Office pictures, TXT files, and others. Now, when the file is received by the server, there are two ways how it can actually behave based on a type of account. Let me just explain that quickly. Starting first with the internal account and then the unknown account. The internal account might be a user which works in the company, a user which already has their account in the system, so we do not have to do anything special. They will just use the email printing. So when such email is received, the user is recognized based on the email. So what happens is that the system will only process their files, the actual attachment and the body of the email. Both will be put into the queue as two individual print jobs. On the other hand, if I'm an unknown account, a guest that is visiting the company, it will create my account based on the email address from which I've initially sent the file. Same will be for the login, and it will generate a PIN, which, of course, through special email, gets delivered to my email box from which I've sent it. Both files are then put into the queue. Now, when it comes to these two options, the internal users and the guests, both can be, of course, disabled. There could be some, limitations if you, for example, you don't want anyone from the outside to use it, or if you don't want your internal users to be able to work with the email print. So you can just set it to be available to both or one of these. Now, when we've got our PIN, the last part to do is to logically come to the machine and release those jobs using the PIN. Like I said, that will be as two individual print jobs. The attachment you have attached to your email and the body of it. Of course, sometimes you don't want to print the body, but there's a possibility to simply deny that. So that way, only the attachment gets printed. Another option when it comes to driverless printing is the hot folder print. I will start with a little example here. This has been especially designed for some of our customers who are using systems that are producing large number of files that should be printed, like for example the payroll. That could be a system, or it's actually from a real situation, a system that produces a lot of files that will be put into the folder. Files which, on the other hand, should not be seen by any user, a user which is not allowed to see them. So, to process them, you cannot simply just ask some users to copy them or print them again. Not mentioning the thing that, printing 3,000 files one by one would be really annoying. So these files, to get printed, and especially to be printed securely, would have to be processed by some middleware. And this, middleware can be MyQ through its hot folder printing. Let me just quickly show how this works. Now, like I said, it could be used for those that are using the special server that produces a lot of print files, but it could be also used by any other user working with the system, simply by copying a file into the folder, which is automatically controlled by the server. The way it works, I will simply send a print job which comes into the folder and then gets checked by the server. Now this folder is, like I said, automatically checked by the MyQ server, so whatever appears here will be processed. Like here, a Word file from John Doe. And on this, I just would like to demonstrate two ways how the actual owner of the print job can be detected. The first thing is that it can be detected from the name of the file. So if it's intended for the user print, the user would just have to ensure that part of the name of the file will be the name of the user. That way, the system will check it and just automatically put it into the job repository of that user. The other option is in a case that it's created by the software, or again, it could be a parent file provided by the user. The other option is that instead of checking the name, the system can automatically check the header of the print job. So if it's a parent file, simply it will detect the owner from the header of the job. And that way, as you can see, both are properly detected, and I can just come to the machine and release it. And as you can see, it's not only about the PRN files or the MS Word, but there are multiple different formats which you can use to get your files, like the, the PNG, the TXT, the MS Office files. There's plenty of those. Another option for the driverless print would then be MS Universal Print. Ideal solution for anyone working on the home office. So if you've got a lot of users on the home office and we do not want to use the VPN, the MS Universal Print is the ideal way to let them print to the printers that are in the office. Now, there's one question which could be appearing in your head, and that is, why not use just MS Universal Print? Why the MyQ should be in the middle? And let me just quickly answer that part. Because if you print using the Universal Print, the job gets printed immediately, and you are losing the one last and important thing, and that's the modification of the print job and enforcement of the print rules. So what you need as an Azure AD joint user working on the home office, without any need of a VPN connection to your office, you will just send a print job from the, not from, but through the MS Universal Print. And for that, it will not go directly to any of your machines, but instead of that, the actual server of MyQ is reached, because the MyQ server in this situation acts as a printer. Why? I've already mentioned that before. The MyQ server will get the job, it can process it, it can modify it, it can apply all the rules you would like to apply, and then let it release on one of the machines. Another level which MyQ adds is that thanks to this processing, the print job can be released even on some old machine which is not supported by the MS Universal Print in the first place. So that way we can ensure that on every machine connected to MyQ, also all these print jobs can be easily released. Another option of a driverless printing is the Airprint and the Mopria. Now, if you are using any of those in your organization, your users are probably used to release them directly from their mobile phone or the tablet. Now, why MyQ steps into this? Because it actually adds additional level into the whole process, and that is the security. Now, the way it works is that there's a special client installed on the MyQ server, which will appear in your Wi-Fi as the connector for your Airprint or Mopria. Now, when the user would like to print the way they are used to, they can just simply connect to that Wi-Fi directly and use their Airprint or Mopria to release the print job. The way it works is that when they connect, the MyQ mobile print client automatically populates all the print queues. So that way those will appear as the printers for your Airprint or, of course, Mopria if you use that. So you can just simply select one of these queues, which are defined the very same way like you would do for the direct printing stuff, and then the user just has to authenticate to be able to send the job to your server. And once it's there, again, it works the very same way as it would for standard printing if you would be using drivers. So you can apply all the rules, you can work with the job like as you like. But that's the one important thing, the job is not released till the moment that the user will come to the machine, authenticate, and release the job on their own. Next one, and really important one, is the MyQ mobile print client, an application which has been designed for the user to manage their print jobs. So if you've got your mobile phone ready and you can use it within your organization, get ready, download it using the Apple App Store or Google Play and start using it within your office. Let me just show you how. Again, you will have to be connected to your system, to your company's Wi-Fi to be able to release it. Of course, there's another option to print remotely, provided you use the Azure application proxy. So even from outside of the organization, you would be able to use your mobile application if the company allows that. But now, how it works and why is it beneficial for the user? So let's say I've got my mobile phone. I will just go to the App Store or the Google Play and install the app to be able to print. Then the next step is I will have to make sure that I can communicate with the server, because without it, simply no job can come to the machine, and it will be completely useless. So for that, I will just hit the login button, come to any machine within the organization, and if I look at its main screen, there's an option of a QR code. A QR code I can simply scan using that very button I have mentioned. Through that, the application will just connect to the server, and I will only have to authenticate, basically telling the server that this is me and that I'm allowed to print using that system. Let me just zoom it a bit so I can show you how it works. Now, I will just click here on the plus, select what I would like to print. So for example, here the MyQ product intro, which is a file which is stored on my mobile device. It gets uploaded first to my mobile application where I can decide what will happen with it. Like here, how many copies I would like to print. In a case of a project accounting, I can assign it also to a project. And then if it should be monochrome and duplex. And the last part, if it should be printed now, provided I'm standing in front of the machine, or if the job should be saved for later. In both cases, it will be first sent to the server and wait there. Just if I'll hit the first one, the print now, the system will automatically ask me to scan the QR code again to release it to one machine in front of which I'm standing right now. In a second case, it will wait there in the standard print queue till I will come to the machine and again authenticate. So in our case, we will save it for later, and that way that jobs gets uploaded to the server. Now there's one more thing I would like to highlight here, and that is that this is not intended only for the MFDs where the QR code will appear as part of your email, as part of your embedded application. There's also one more thing, that you can generate a special QR code for every small printer that stands on a user's desk. Simply by going into the UI, selecting that printer, and telling the system to generate a QR code. That very QR code can then be printed and put on a sticker which is attached to that machine. Which means that if I would like to print it now, I can just scan the QR code which is on that sticker to release the print job on that very machine. It is simple as that. So that way, basically, your MyQ mobile application becomes your release terminal for those machines which would normally not be capable of releasing anything securely. Now, this is actually only one level. Now, in the beginning of my presentation, I have mentioned that one of the target audiences of this application are students. Students are often focusing on I don't want to say cheap solutions, but of course, the Chromebooks are much more, easy to obtain than some full PC. So that way, a lot of students are using Chromebooks. But printing from Chromebooks is not an easy thing. You can use the IPPS printing with the user detection, but that works only for the managed Chromebooks, which in a case of a school is not likely to happen because, they will have their personal Chromebooks, and that way those will not be managed by the organization. And that way, like I said, the user will not be detected properly. And for that reason, we have modified this mobile application to be working also on a Chromebook. So once I'm there, I will just install the app. And through that app, I can upload any file I need to print directly into the server and release it on all the machines the school is providing for that. And of course, this feature can also be combined with a credit accounting or a quota. So that way, you as the university will not be losing money. You can just provide that service for a certain fee. And that's also pretty much everything I wanted to mention as part of this webinar. So thank you for watching. And now, if you have any question, please use the Q&A section, which is accessible through the button, which is most probably in a top corner, in a top right corner of your screen.